You put your phone down. The screen goes dark. The room goes quiet. And yet, in a strange way, your phone is still paying attention. Not to your thoughts, not in some sci-fi mind-reading way, but to something almost as eerie, your absence. How can a slab of glass and metal tell when you have stopped touching it? How does it know when to dim, lock, pause, wake up, or suddenly light back up the second you pick it up again? And why does that tiny skill matter so much more than most people realize? Because your phone is not just waiting for commands. It is constantly watching for clues. First, let us make this feel weirder. A phone can often tell the difference between being held, being pocketed, being placed face down on a table, being lifted toward your face, and being ignored for 10 minutes. It does not understand those situations the way a person would, but it can detect patterns so well that it starts to look like understanding. And that is the mystery. How does a device with no eyes in the human sense, no ears in the human sense, and no real common sense still make such good guesses about what you are doing? The answer is that your phone is less like a tool waiting to be used, and more like a tiny bundle of sensors, timers, and predictions, always trying to answer one question. What is the human doing now? That question begins with touch. The most obvious signal is when you stop interacting. No taps, no swipes, no typing. Your phone starts an internal countdown almost immediately. A few seconds pass and the screen may dim. A little longer and it locks. That part feels simple. But here's the clever part. Inactivity is not just nothing happening. To your phone, inactivity is data. No finger touches, no button presses, no movement. Maybe the device is lying flat. Maybe the light around it has changed. Maybe it just connected to a charger by your bed at 11:43 p.m. All those tiny clues pile up, and together they tell a story. You are probably not using it. This is why phones feel smarter than a basic timer. They are not only counting seconds, they are combining signals. Inside your phone are motion sensors, especially an accelerometer and a gyroscope. The accelerometer senses changes in movement and direction. The gyroscope senses rotation and orientation. Together, they act like your phone's inner balance system. Pick your phone up, and those sensors notice the change instantly. Tilt it toward your face, and they notice that too. Set it down on a table and leave it still. And your phone gets a strong hint that the interaction is over. This is why some phones wake when lifted or stay asleep when untouched. They are not guessing blindly. They are reading movement patterns that often go with human behavior. You might have felt this without noticing it. You reach for your phone, and before you even press a button, the screen is already ready. It feels smooth, natural, almost polite, but that smoothness comes from a device constantly asking, was that random motion, or was that a person about to look at me? Now here's the twist. Movement alone is not enough. Imagine your phone bouncing around in a backpack. That is movement too. But it does not usually wake up like it would in your hand. Why? Because phones do not rely on one clue. They look for combinations. Maybe the movement is too chaotic. Maybe the proximity sensor says something is pressed close against the screen. Maybe the ambient light suddenly dropped. Maybe there has been no touch input. Those clues together suggest pocket or bag, not active use. That proximity sensor is one of the sneakiest parts of the whole system. During a call, it helps your phone figure out when your face is near the screen, so it can switch the display off and stop your cheek from pressing random buttons. But the same idea can help the phone understand whether the device is exposed, covered, near your body, or out in the open. And then there is ambient light. Phones can measure how bright the environment is. That helps with auto brightness, of course, but it also adds context. A phone sitting motionless in darkness late at night means something different from a phone actively moving through bright daylight. Again, not certainty. Probability. That is the real secret here. Your phone is a probability machine. It is not saying that the user has abandoned it. It is saying that based on touch, motion, orientation, light, timing, and maybe proximity, there is a high chance the user is not actively engaged right now. And once it believes that, a lot begins to happen. The screen dims to save power. The processor may ease off certain tasks. Apps in the foreground may pause visual activity. Notifications may behave differently. Security timers may kick in. The device starts shifting from performance mode to waiting mode. It is a little like a theater after the audience leaves. The lights lower, the staff resets, the doors lock. The building is still alive, but it is no longer performing. This explains something important. Detecting that you are not using your phone is just as valuable as detecting that you are. Because inactivity is where battery life is protected. It is where privacy can improve. It is where overheating is reduced. It is where distraction can be softened. And it is where phones become less annoying when they get it right. But there is a catch. Sometimes they get it wrong. You are reading something without touching the screen, and suddenly it dims. You are cooking, glancing at a recipe, hands covered in flour, and the phone decides you have vanished. You are watching directions at a traffic light, and the screen goes black at exactly the worst time. That happens because not touching does not always mean not using. And this reveals one of the biggest limits of smart devices. Human attention is invisible unless it leaves a trace. Your phone cannot directly sense focus. It senses evidence. Touch is evidence. Motion is evidence. Face detection on some devices can be evidence, but attention itself is much harder. That is why some systems try to bridge the gap with more advanced tricks. A front-facing camera may sometimes help detect whether you are looking at the screen. Software may learn your habits, when you usually lock the phone, when you leave it charging, when you sleep, when you tend to pick it up again. Some features even adapt screen behavior based on repeated patterns. And that sounds useful. It also sounds a little unsettling. Because once a phone gets good at noticing when you stop using it, it can also get better at noticing when you might start again. That matters in modern life more than ever. Think about how often people do not fully use their phone in one clean session anymore. We hover around it. We half-check it. We glance at it during conversations. We wake it just to see the time, then drift into messages, then into email, then into videos we never meant to watch. In that world, the line between use and non-use gets blurry. So phones are built to react to micro-behaviors. A lift, a glance, a pause, a second of touch, a second of silence. And that creates a feedback loop. Your phone senses disengagement, so it dims. You notice the dimming, so you re-engage. You tap it again, and the cycle resets. Tiny behavior, tiny response, repeated hundreds of times a day. This is where the story gets bigger than technology. Because the same systems designed to save battery and make devices feel seamless also shape your habits. When a phone wakes quickly, rewards quick checking, and never feels fully off, it becomes easier for your brain to keep it in the background of attention all day long. Not always demanding, just available. Always one gesture away. Myth: your phone only does something when you actively open an app. Reality: much of its intelligence lives in the transitions between active and inactive, awake and asleep, held and abandoned. That in-between space is where modern devices quietly compete for your attention and conserve their power at the same time. And here is another myth. Myth: if your screen is off, your phone has basically stopped paying attention. Reality: screen off does not mean sensor blind. Many phones still monitor certain low-power signals so they can detect movement, calls, alarms, wake gestures, fitness activity, and other events. Not everything shuts down equally. Some systems go quiet, others stay on watch. That is why your phone can feel almost alive when it is sleeping. It is not fully asleep in the way a book on a table is asleep. It is more like a guard dog with one eye open. So what does all this mean for you? It means your phone experience is built around prediction. Every lock screen timeout, every raise to wake moment, every screen dim, every accidental wake inside a pocket, and every battery-saving trick come from a machine trying to read human absence from physical traces. And once you see that, the magic changes. It becomes less mystical and more revealing. Your phone does not know you. It knows your patterns. It knows the physics of being carried, held, lifted, ignored, covered, and set down. It turns those patterns into decisions. Fast ones, constant ones. And in a strange way, that is more powerful than simple knowledge, because pattern reading is enough to shape behavior, save power, and make technology feel almost intuitive. So how do you use that knowledge without becoming paranoid about it? Start by noticing the invisible conversation. Notice when your screen wakes before you ask. Notice when it dims while you are still mentally present. Notice how often a tiny motion pulls you back in. That alone changes your relationship with the device. Next, make the phone work for your attention instead of against it. Lengthen your auto lock if the screen times out while you are reading, or shorten it if you tend to leave your phone glowing beside you. Turn off raise to wake if every little movement invites a check. Use focus modes or notification limits so your phone is less eager to turn your absence into a comeback. And one more shift matters. Create moments when not using it becomes truly not using it. Face down on a desk, across the room, in a bag, on a shelf at night. Those choices sound small, but they remove the little sensor cues and visual temptations that keep the loop alive. Because the easiest phone to ignore is the one that can not so easily notice you hovering nearby. In the end, the strange truth is this: your phone does not need to understand your life to influence it. It only needs to detect the moment your fingers leave the glass. That is enough for it to dim, wait, predict, and prepare for your return. So the next time your screen goes dark, the instant you walk away, remember what is really happening. Your phone is not just turning off. It is making a very educated guess that for one brief moment, your attention belongs to something else.